Thanks. Thanks, Leah. That's a great little intro and stuff like that. So welcome everybody. I will keep this to 20 minutes. I think it's probably going to be more like half an hour, but I'll try 20 minutes. And today we're going to be talking about Dingy Skipper, which is a Northern Ireland priority species, and we're going to run through how to identify it and really where to look for it and how to record and monitor it. And I should say just from the outset as well, well, firstly, my name is Rose Cremin, and I'm the Conservation Manager for Butterfly Conservation in Northern Ireland. And I want to thank our funders really from the outset. So DARE is Northern Ireland Environment Agency for funding butterfly conservation for these last many years. So really essential to be funded to get some of our work done. And also to the Heritage Fund and to Department for Communities, who part fund Leah's Post as well. So just a shout out to them. So just jumping straight in, so I just wanted to just throw up one slide about butterfly conservation. So Butterfly Conservation are the UK's charity looking after butterflies, moths and nature or the environment. We have a number of staff in Northern Ireland and other staff obviously in England, Scotland and Wales. And we work in partnership with a number of organisations, and particularly the National Biodiversity Data Centre in the Republic of Ireland through various initiatives and schemes, such as the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. So butterfly conservation recently, well, I still say recently, but it's not so recent anymore. We developed a new strategy, 2021 to 2026. So we're well ways through that now. Myself and Leah and all the other departments and directorates within BC are working to 3 very high level goals, and goal 1, 2 and 3. So goal 1 and 2, and particularly 2, is something that the Conservation Directorate that me and Leah sit in are particularly interested in, which is improving the condition of 100 of the UK's most important landscapes for butterflies and moths. So we're very actively doing that. And I suppose today really we're more addressing goal 1, which is halving the number of UK's threatened butterflies and moths. And really to do that, we really need to understand, we always need to understand the distribution of species, you know, where they are, how they're doing, but also how they're faring, you know, what their status is, if they're being impacted by various different, I suppose, threats really, or opportunities as well. And also then so that we can engage with landowners on correct management for them and to monitor them. That's a nice picture there of marsh utility. So that's our most protected Lepidoptera across the UK, and actually we've been working on this for decades now, and I suppose we could happily say that really we are looking at recovery management and sustainable management for the species now. So we pretty much know what the species needs, how we need to go about it, and the different initiatives and tools that we have to manage for the species. So really it's working on that, and that's you know, really a species recovery curve model, and that's where we want to go to with all our threatened species, looking at like the status assessment, you know, like where are they, diagnosis, like what's going on with them, what's the issue here, is it land management, is it climate change, things we can manage or things we can't, solution testing, and then into recovery management such as agri-environment schemes. So really today I'm going to be talking about Dingy Skipper, and really as well covering surveying, monitoring and recording schemes. And I suppose at the very core of what we do is really asking people to go out and count butterflies and moths and tell us where they saw them and how many they saw, and you know, where were they and who that person is. So that's a biological record. And for that, it really is a name, date, location, species, and abundance. How many of the species did you see? And really, I still use a pen and paper. I still have a notebook when I go out, but that's not really how we largely now accept records. We do accept them that way, but generally, because of the increase in recording, we ask people to go on and use digital platforms and means to submit their data. And then that data ultimately moves through a process and will end up, for example, with a verification committee, and then gets shared on to the bigger sort of like data managers who share that out and use it for atlasing projects. So that's the core of it really, you know, you name, date, location, species and abundance. And there's different ways of submitting data, and you know, every country has one at least local record centre. In Northern Ireland it's CEDAR, Centre for Environmental Data and Recording, and you can log on and find Cedar online and use our desktop app to submit data. So we definitely would consider them one of the really trusted and useful ways to submit data. And also, I think, more as we move into this century, really, it's about mobile devices and what apps you can have on your mobile device when you're out and about. So iRecord is also a platform that Butterfly Conservation and Cedar all use and recommend and promote and highlight. So it's something that I'd really highlight and suggest for you to use. So if you don't have this, perhaps download it onto your desktop or onto your phone and use it to record and submit your data. So that's another plea. It's fantastic when you get out and enjoy nature and see butterflies and moths on the wing. But if you can, do submit your data. So that's critical, and a tool like iRecord is really useful for that. If you're in the Republic of Ireland, Andy, who was on chatting there earlier to us, is just across the border. And while you can submit data to Cedar and the National Biodiversity Data Centre will have data exchange agreements, so they will share each other's data for each other's jurisdiction that may end up in their system. But at the same time, you can also just go direct to them, to the National Biodiversity Data Centre. If you search them, biodiversityireland.ie, and they also have their own portal for submitting data. So those are those two sort of repositories really for casual records. And what we're going to be talking about today is submitting casual records, but also actually the UK Butterfly Monitoring Scheme, ukbms.org, which is a collaboration between CEH, the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, BTO and Butterfly Conservation, and JNCC as well. So really a collective of organisations who run a recording scheme for monitoring butterflies using various different, I suppose, schemes or initiatives within that. I'm not going to talk about the garden butterfly scheme today or the big butterfly count or moths really. I'm just going to touch on that later on down the line. But we also obviously are very focused on recording moths. You can casually record moths through iRecord. There's a garden moth scheme, or also you can get involved with party moth monitoring as well. And we have a country recorder that accepts that data as well. So just moving on, so just one slide. In the past, we have delivered identification workshops covering all of these species, and it's fairly mammoth, to be honest. I know a few of you on the call have been on these, so we would run through the wider countryside species. So these are species that are not specialist, not particularly fussy on the food plant that the female lays her eggs on. So there's quite a few there. Then we would talk about specialists. There's species that you get just in the Republic of Ireland and not in Northern Ireland, or at least not yet. And then we have rare and migrant species. But today, actually, we're just going to be talking about one species, which is the Dingy Skipper, which is confined really to Fermanagh and to West Fermanagh. This is something very useful as well. I just wanted to share with you. You can find this table on the UK Butterfly Monitoring Scheme website. And I should say that even if you're not a user, if you don't have a username and log in to the UK BMS website, you can actually just go on to the website and you can search and look at the guidance and the documents and the analysis and the reports. It's really useful. And this is something that Butterfly Conservation produces every year, basically trends for species across the 4 countries. And this is specifically Northern Ireland's species trends. And this really is the result of all the very hard work and dedication and effort that a whole range of recorders and volunteers and individuals and organizations put into basically gathering data, submitting the data, and we can use that data then to do analysis. So again, this is available on our website. You can take a look at it. You can see Dingy Skipper is up here at the top, and at the moment there are just 2 sites in Northern Ireland that monitor the species. So one is Bawara, that is monitored. I do that monitoring, and the second one is Killykeegan and Crossmoran, which is a nature reserve, and that's monitored by an NIEA ranger as part of his all species transect. So we do not at all have enough sites monitored to develop a trend for the species, and we need about 2 or 3 more. And we determine that really by how many 1 kilometre squares these species occupy. And as it's just West Fermanagh, we don't need that many, but we do need some. So that's the focus of today. So Dingy Skipper, this is the species itself. It is a small butterfly. It is, I was going to say day flyer. It's definitely a day flyer. It's a butterfly. And this is just a description of it there on the side. So it's quite small. Its wingspan is about 39 millimeters. It's a day flyer. It's grayish brown, and it's very well camouflaged, particularly up against rock and soil. And that photograph actually is one I took of it sitting on the tree trunk on the ground. So a really pretty little butterfly. I think once you get your eye in and you look at it, it's got the clubbed antennae there, which is diagnostic for butterflies. It's on the wing at the moment. So Ian would have gotten, I think, probably the first record for the country there last week. And I got to see some of the species flying as well on Friday, just gone, that beautiful day we had in a number of sites. So its flight period is May to June. Its status, it is a Northern Ireland priority species. It's on the Northern Ireland priority species list that NIEA and CEDAR maintain. It's endangered, certainly, and it's restricted to County Fermanagh, and in particular, West County Fermanagh as well. It is found across Britain and Ireland, but again, restricted in its range in Britain as well. So the habitat where it's found really is grasslands and sheltered and sunny, warm spots. It likes heat, it likes bare ground. It doesn't like dense, lush vegetation, so it needs bare ground. So it's something that's a little bit disturbed, maybe with paths or thin soils like limestone grassland. Its food plant is bird's foot trefoil, so that's a really important thing to understand, and something I'll discuss in a little while. And I just dropped in an image there of an egg. The eggs were laid singly, and the caterpillar, but we're not going to talk too much about those today at all, actually. Mostly what we're asking people to do is go out and look for the adult. So I've added some information here about where you can find it, and I do have a distribution map that I'll show you again in a minute. But essentially, Dingy Skipper is found on unimproved grassland sites, most often over limestone grassland, and it can be found resting or basking on bare soil or rocks where it can be difficult to spot. Okay, so unimproved grassland is species rich. It won't be fertilized or spread with slurry, so it's got to be somewhere that's really flower rich but with thin soils where there's bare patches of ground. Okay, it is definitely a very fast flyer, and I think, like a lot of the skippers, it flies fast and flies low, so it can be tricky to keep your eye on it. However, it doesn't go far. So, for example, when I'm monitoring it at Boara, I really keep a close eye to the ground, and it will fly up from your feet. And really, it'll just fly a couple of meters and land again. And you need to just stop and sort of follow it as much as you can, and drop and search around where it's disappeared, and you should find it. Okay, so it's quite easy to take a photograph of it as well in that sense. It's the only skipper butterfly in Northern Ireland, while small skipper and Essex skipper were, I suppose, accidentally introduced probably into the Republic through perhaps the introduction or importation of hay. So it's our only skipper butterfly that we will find. So this is the map, actually, and really I suppose we should just produce a map just of West Fermanagh rather than using the whole of Northern Ireland. But you can see here where it's found. This is Pettigo Plateau. These are the areas around the West Fermanagh Scarplands. It's found in around there. This is that distribution dot there would be in around Killykeegan and Crossmoor. And without delving into the data, I think just take a quick peek at that. That looks to be Knocknanny Rock. So these are, this is all West Fermanagh. And a lot of these sites, they're quite well visited, obviously. Killykeegan and Crossmoor certainly is, as is West Fermanagh Scarpans and Pettigo and Knocknanny Rock to a lesser extent. But we do think that there are opportunities to find the species in other parts of West Fermanagh. So when I'm saying that, I'm thinking of particularly, for example, Florence Court. At the back of Florence Court, you've got the Ulster Way that runs from Florence Court through to Colca Mountain National Park, for example. And I think if you took a ramble through that, looking for the food plant, which is essential to find the species, and you fly, you pop out in good weather at the right time of the year, you should see the species. There's also like a fantastic network of Forest Service sites across Fermanagh. I think Fermanagh is the most forested county in Northern Ireland. And Marble Arch Caves, or the Lakeland, Culca Lakeland Geopark, I think they've rebranded, have a network of paths across the Forest Service estate. So it's been suggested as well that, well, in addition to West Fermanagh being particularly carboniferous and, possessing limestone grassland, some of the forest estate tracks also use limestone stone to stone their tracks and paths. So again, providing favorable conditions for the species. And it may well be worth looking in East Fermanagh as well, perhaps, at some of the forest estates there. So I think that's just a really useful map. And again, that would be the target area we'd be looking for people to go to. There could be sites along the loch shore, even like quarries or, decent roadside verges. I should say those two white dots there, they're likely roadside verges that haven't been visited in a while, but there are populations of, I can think of two roadside verges that have populations of Dingy Skipper at the moment. So I just wanted to point out as well, there are a few day-flying moth species that you could confuse them with Dingy Skipper for. And probably the most important one to point out would be burnet companion. And I still, when I walk on to, let's say, Bewara, for example, I still give myself a few minutes to pick out Dingy Skipper, especially the first time I'm looking for the species in the season. It's been a year since I've seen it, etc. It's getting used to the jizz. What does it look like when it flies? How does it fly? Is that what it is that I'm looking at? So I can be confident that when I am recording, I am seeing what I think I'm seeing. So when burnet companion, they fly at the same time. They like the same habitat. In fact, they use very similar. Well, burnet companion has a broader range of food plants, but it also uses birchwood trefoil. But the big thing to watch out for, you can see the hind wings here, the underwings, they have this yellow to orange coloration on the wing. And that's kind of like when you see it take off, if you startle it or move it, that's what you need to look out for, this flash of yellow or orange. And once you see that, then you can go, okay, that's a burnet companion. But I should say as well, if you've got your notebook with you, it's worth recording. Do record burnet companion. It needs to be recorded too. It's another native species. It's a moth. We're really interested in it. It is a species that you will find in good quality grassland as well. The second species probably that you need to be most aware of is the mother Shipton, which is this species here on the left-hand side. And it's actually, I did have to look it up because I knew it was named after an old hag or something. But I don't know if you can see it, but this is the old hag's long nose and her eye and her mouth, and apparently she was a 16th century Yorkshire witch. So that's where she gets her name from, or the species here does. So if you can see old Mother Shipton there in the wing of the species, it should help you with telling the species apart. So yeah, again, it's just about looking at the detail and getting your eye in, okay? And then the other species we have here is common heath. I think maybe you're less likely to see that, but it's flying everywhere at the moment. You can find it heathland and moorland and grassland. So I just wanted to point it out to you. It's very similar coloration, but very different patternation, as you can see. So these are the ones to watch out for. But again, I'd encourage you all to jot these species down in your notebook and submit the data as well when you see them. I just threw this up as well, again, just to show you that they're a lot more common and widespread than Dingy Skipper. And also, just to show the, I suppose, the facility of Moths Ireland. These are maps I've pulled from their website. I'm sure Leah'll helpfully drop in something into the chat, maybe a link if you want to take a look at them. And they've recently updated their map. So it covers the island of Ireland, so the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, and all the moth recorders, the data that they share go to this space as well. Data is shared and the maps are updated, so they're fabulous. A great resource. And one of the key things, if you see, you know, any species, butterfly and moth included, it's always a good thing to do to check its distribution, in case you're off. If it says, oh, it's really rare and it's only found on coastal sand dunes and you're inland, then it's probably not what you think you have. So, but you could double check with the distribution maps there. So just a nice resource. Again, log on to the website, freely available. Type in the name of the moth species you're interested in, and you can go to the map and take a look at its distribution. So I did say I would talk to you about the food plant as well. So specialist butterflies are specialist because I think because of the habitat where they're found, but actually because they are fussy about where they lay the eggs. So the female Dingy Skipper lays her eggs on largely common birds with trefoil. There's greater as well, and I believe that she can use both, but generally it's common birds with trefoil. Lotus corniculatus, and it's flowering now, so from May to July. So actually, I suppose similar to when I'm out monitoring other species, if you want to try and locate the species, and if you're wondering if you're in the right area or the right type of habitat, well, firstly, be in West Fermanagh, somewhere, wherever it is that you feel that you can access. And you need to find the food plant, and it's in flower at the nearly more or less at the same time when the species is on the wing. So it's perfect, right? So go to West Fermanagh, find the food plant, and then see if you can find the species. So I should also say, you know, birds with trefoil is a beautiful species. It's you know, a wildflower. It definitely needs our help. At Bewar, for example, we manage the habitat to ensure that it persists. The habitat is maintained for the species. Scrubbing up, etc., is one of the biggest threats really to butterflies and moths and the habitat where they're found. So take a note of that, okay? So there's a couple of different ways, I suppose we're going to ask you to let us know if you found Dingy Skipper. And one is really just a casual record. So casual record only requires you to submit the data. You don't need to go into UK BMS and, you know, define how long you're out for, take the temperature and all that. So that's essentially, I mean, that would be our big ask. If we can find more sites for Dingy Skipper, that would be amazing. And then we can give you the support you need afterwards to set up a transect. But I'm going to talk about that briefly today as well, okay? So I think, like I was saying already, you know, Dingy Skipper has a restricted range, which is West Fermanagh, but we do think that it's likely there are other populations that have not yet been identified. So these could include roadside bird populations, forestry sites, and particularly along trackways there as well, okay? So I'll just go in and talk about UK BMS and the transect. So I just wanted to pop this up as well, just to show I suppose the effort and recorder effort and the distribution really of transects across the UK. We have a number in Northern Ireland. I must go back in and check, but I think it's mid-30s transects walked across Northern Ireland. And these will vary. These are all species transects where transects are walked from April to September, and all species are counted. So that's like, you know, our gold standard. It really takes a lot of effort. And right down to Wicibus, which is really anything from 2 to 3 walks over the course of the season. If you go on to UK BMS, again, I was saying earlier, the website is freely accessible to everybody. There is tons of information there. There's field guidance notes about how you would set up a transect. The forms you need to fill in are there, as well as the weekly recording forms you would use if you set up a transect. So it's all written out nicely. You don't need your new notebook. You can print this off and use that instead. And there's also really important stuff like landowner letters, so you can print that off so landowner you know, understands what you're doing and who you are, etc. And I should say, very importantly as well from the outset, it's crucial that you have the landowner's permission before you go onto a site. So walking across Forest Service estate, taking casual records is fine. Walking down a lane, and you know, or obviously your own garden, but down a country lane is fine. But once you decide that you'd like to go in, let's say, and access a field or private land, you must get the permission of the landowner before you go in. Okay, so that's really, really important. And I should also say in Northern Ireland, we're really fortunate to have a great transit coordinator called Stephen. Stephen's a volunteer with us. He's been managing and doing all the admin and supporting workshops for many years now, well over a decade. And he'll be there to support you as well if you decide you want to go ahead and set up a transect. So briefly, I'm just going to talk very briefly about transects, because really my main point of today is so that you learn how to identify the species and go out and find it. And then if you do, you can come back to us and say, well, I think I'd be interested in walking a transect. How do I go about it? And, again, the website is there for everybody to take a look at. But really, when we're going out recording butterflies, there's a few minimum conditions that must be met. And obviously, it needs to be warm, certain temperatures, so a minimum of 13 degrees really, and sunny. Or if it's not sunny, which is often the case in Northern Ireland, it needs to be at least 16 or 17 degrees, okay? No rain, obviously. Butterflies don't tend to fly in the rain. They might scoot a little bit, but not really. And just moderate wind, okay? So once trees start swaying, and then if they really are moving, then you're not going to walk your transect, okay? And we also recommend people generally walk between 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. But we would even push that into 10:30 to 4, and that's when you're most likely to see butterflies, when they're most active. Too early, they may not be active. Too late, they're done for the day. And then a technique we use if you are walking a transect, if you're doing casual records, it's fine. You can record at a wider range, but really, this is a technique that was set, I suppose, established by Ernie Pollard, and it's called the Pollard box. So when you're walking a transect, what you do is you walk in a line. It doesn't have to be straight, it can be zigzag, but what you are doing is recording 2.5 meters each side of you, 5 meters ahead and 5 meters up. So that's your 5-meter Pollard box, okay? Now, we have a number of different types of transects you can walk, okay? There's the all-species transect, I mentioned it briefly. And ideally, what we would love is to get 1 or 2 more transects set up in West Fermanagh, which would be single-species transects. So what you would do there is walk a route during the flight period of the species. So anything from 6 to 8 weeks, okay? So let's say from May right to the end of June. So that's 8 weeks that you go out and walk a route and you record what you see. If that is just too much to ask, and in some cases it is quite a big ask, a significant effort, there is an option as well, excuse me, to walk a timed species count. There's information about that on the website, but essentially it's even a more reduced effort again. You walk a transect once or twice, excuse me, during the peak flight period of the species in top condition, and you submit that to UKBMS. And provided Dingy Skipper is being picked up on other either all species or single species transects, that time species count can use that, and we can develop indices and trends from that. Excuse me. So I think that's really what we are promoting today. And I just wanted to just to highlight a little bit about monitoring through transects and what we need to do about ensuring they're consistent. So monitoring data requirements for them really is that these are annual indices which represent relative abundance collected by methods which are consistently and fairly applied to allow year-on-year comparisons. So if you think there are 2,500 transects being walked across the UK every year for all species, it's really, really important that people walk them, in the same conditions, to the same manner, with the same level of ID skills. So just keep that in mind. And time species counts are really suitable for many species. So I know that some of us are walking time species counts now for green hairstreak and Dingy Skipper, and possibly more as we go on, because it's a lot to ask people to walk a route for 26 weeks. The fieldwork for setting up a transect is quite simple, really. If you imagine, you've got suitable habitat in one particular field, and you decide that that's the area that you can walk, then you get a map organized, you go visit the site before you're going to walk your transect, decide the boundary, the extent of what you're going to walk. Do you think it's more sensible to walk a zigzag path? Do you want to walk a straight path? And you just practice that basically. And really what we ask you to do is cover the flight area as evenly as possible with habitat that is suitable for the species of varying quality. It doesn't all need to be perfect, but as long as it's suitable habitat for the species to breed in. And yeah, like it says there, that last point, make sure you pass through areas of low and high adult densities and different quality. And you count all the butterflies that you see as you go along. So there's different resources that we'd suggest that you use as well. So I'm nearly coming to the end here. So a mobile phone is really useful, okay, for photographs, and you can use iRecord if you're just going out and doing casual surveys, okay? So definitely have your mobile phone with you, and have it with you as well to tell you the time and maybe the temperature, but also for health and safety as a buddy system, okay? So that's really important. I like using a clipboard. I think it's really handy, something, solid to lean on, bring a pen, and bring a recording form and a risk assessment if you think you need one, as well as a field guide. So I've got like a little photograph here of a field guide that we recommend. It's really good. Binoculars are really handy as well. If you've got some lightweight binoculars you don't mind wearing, especially if the species is off at a distance or it lands a couple of meters from you and you think it's too flighty, you can get a really good close-up look at it. And as well, just to enjoy the species, binoculars are really handy. A butterfly net, I think that's less essential if you have a pair of binoculars. And I think maybe butterfly net is useful when you are unsure of the species that you're seeing flying around. Maybe you net one or two and you kind of go, okay, that is what it is, and you see it fly off and the other species are behaving similarly, then you can be quite sure that's, or confident that is what it is. And there's also a few places you can get these bits of books or equipment or butterfly nets from, and there's just a few there that we'd recommend. But actually, I think more for butterflies, what you need really as well is to join like an online group. So Butterfly Conservation have a Facebook group. I'm sure a few of the people that are on this call today, and I know Ian, who's our butterfly recorder for Northern's on the call. It's a really well monitored group. Everyone's very polite and very helpful. So definitely check that out. And it's a really good way of seeing what's flying, basically. If it's more moths you're interested in, then Moths Ireland is brilliant to check out and see. And there's the UK moth websites as well. And also Butterfly Conservation, it's a little bit dated, perhaps, but mostly maybe in terms of its distribution. But BC does have a Dingy Skipper fact sheet. So you could print that off as well, or not print it off, just read it, give yourself some more background information. And finally, what I'd like to say or plead or ask people who are on the call today or to share with your friends is, please do go out and see if you can find the species. It would be fantastic to find some more new breeding sites, and Butterfly Conservation can engage with the landowners. We can knock on doors or pick up the phone and just say, you've got a population of Dingy Skipper. Do you know how rare they are? They're found only in West Fermanagh. What can we do? Can we help you? Can we do some volunteer work parties, etc., etc.? So there's a lot that we can do. So do go out, and how fabulous, go out on a nice sunny warm day and count butterflies. It's a great thing to be able to do. I also just wanted to take the opportunity to mention that our big butterfly count is coming up from the 12th of July to the 4th of August. And that's really our big citizen science initiative, where we ask people to spend 15 minutes in a sunny location and record what they see. So that's coming up, put that in your calendar. For various events that are branch, Butterfly Conservation is a branch which is run by volunteers who do a lot of fantastic things over the course of the whole calendar year. You can go onto our events section on our website and find out what they're up to. If sort of going out and tramping around fields or nature reserves or parks and gardens isn't quite your thing, you can also support us by becoming a member. So sign up to that. That's so important to us. And also, if you're a volunteer and we've been in touch about Assemble, please do go ahead and log in and share your details, or maybe sign up to Assemble, which is our new volunteer portal. So you can also find us on social media. We've got a Facebook group and we've got a page, and you can share that across your network. It's just a couple of more things. Also, Wild Spaces, which is our new initiative as well, that BC are pushing out to encourage people really to manage their gardens for pollinators. So important that we maintain these little network patches across the countryside and cities and gardens for pollinators. So, and there's lots of really useful information on that there if you go onto our website for that. I mentioned Stephen already, so Stephen isn't on the call today, but Stephen is super helpful and he can give you all the support and guidance you need if you think, actually, I am really interested in doing time species count or a single species transit, or also I'm very happy to answer any of your questions as well. So I think that's it. That's a real whistle-stop tour through Dingy Skipper. So yeah, good luck. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Rose. I'm just gonna stop